Riders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes. And this is the 4-month review on the super beautiful Propain Sresh. In this review, you're going to check out the geometry, pricing, models, obviously how does it enduro ride, trail ride, jump, and everything in between. If you're thinking about getting the Sresh, you need to watch this review. And a massive shout out to Propain for sending out the Sresh. So first up, the Sresh is rolling on mullets, or it is 29 compatible. We've got 160 travel up front and 150 in the rear. It's powered by the Shimano EP801 motor with 85 newtons of torque and 600 watts of peak power. There is a removable 626 watt hour battery, and the weight is coming in from 20.8 kilos. And in this exact configuration with my custom wheels, cockpit, cranks and pedals, is coming in at 23.8 kilos. The Sresh is available in 4 sizes and prices starting from 5,399 euros. And obviously this is the top spec model. But riders, the best thing about Propain is you can actually select all your parts. You can select the frame color, all the componentries, and build up your killer dream build. And my recommendation would be to, if you're on a budget, to actually go for the best suspension and best brakes, because the cockpit and dropper and running gear you can change at a later date. And the geometry in the Sresh in a large, which I've been testing, and I'm 183 centimeters on a good day. So we have a 480 millimeter reach, we got a 65-degree head tube angle, 76.6 degree sit tube angle, a 350 BB drop, 447 chainstay in a mullet, or 450 in a 29er. So 4 months ago, the Sresh arrived at my doorstep in a box, because obviously Propain are a direct-to-consumer company, so it's online only. And the unboxing procedure was really quick and easy, and I actually really like how Propain do this. So they've got like a box inside a box. So the outer sleeve of the box, all you do is slide it off, and the whole bike is presented to you. And all you have to do is put the front wheel on, the pedals, and straighten the bars. I think anyone that has very basic mechanical skills can put this bike together. And then onto appearance and build quality. I think the Sresh has to be one of, if not the most beautiful e-bikes for 2025. Riders, what do you think? Put it in the comments. I think this has to be, for me, very close to the most beautiful e-bike for the year. And the build quality, like, I've been really impressed. Like, this is my first Propain. I've been a big fan of the company for the last, since I've had the channel, 5 years. It's the first time I've ridden one, and I'm gonna say for the 4 months, I've put it through a fair bit of abuse. The quality of the frame, the paint's still great. I think the overall finish is definitely a top tier e-bike company. Now, let's go and talk about how does the Sresh ride out in the trails with a bit of POV style. And that would not be possible without our amazing sponsor, Quadlock, because riders, it might seem like I'm just candidly talking out in the trails, but I've got all my notes from my thoughts from the last 4 months on my Quadlock, on my phone, on my handlebars, so I can give you all my thoughts and make it look a bit more dynamic. And riders, it's got even better with Quadlock now, because with Shimano and Bosch systems, it actually wirelessly charges your phone out in the trails. Absolute game changer for me, because some of these POV videos take a few hours and I never run out of battery on my phone. Anyway, riders, let's head out to the trails, talk about the Sresh. Okay, legend riders, now for the best part. How does the Sresh ride out in the trails? Well, over the last 4 months, I've had such a fantastic time. The Sresh is a super fun, playful, planted, rides light, frame's pretty stiff, and pair that all together, it darts all over the track with a 65-degree head tube angle. It is a lot of fun to ride. But it was love at first sight, but it wasn't love at first ride. The first 2 rides, I wouldn't say I loved it. It felt a bit too big for me. It came with a 50 mil stem, 20 mil rise bars. I felt it too long. I was riding a large, and I'm 183 centimeters. So I changed the stem to a 35, went to 40 mil rise bars, and felt a lot better. And I also changed the tires, or actually the wheels, because the Sresh came with the older Shorby tires, and I'm so used to the new ones, the radials. On the first 2 rides, I lost the front, so I changed the tires as well. And after making those changes, I've had so much fun on the Sresh. It is a pure trail bike, 65-degree head tube angle, you know, stiffish frame. It darts all over the trails. It's a lot of fun, really agile and responsive. You can dissect those trails. I'm running it with the Coil, and the Pro 10 suspension platform is absolutely awesome. This bike is glued to the ground. So much traction out in the trails, and the off-camber stuff, it just absolutely loves it. I am gonna say that it's not a really poppy bike. It is glued to the ground. And you know, that's probably because I'm running with the Coil. I would definitely like to try an air shock on this bike, but suspension is awesome. Okay, dropping back into the second downhill. So is the Sresh a trail duro? What do I mean by trail duro? Well, can it handle enduro riding? What I'm doing right now? Of course it can. Is it a trail duro? I'm gonna say it like this. The bikes I've been testing the last couple of months, Ampflo, Ebike Rise, and Levo Gen 4. I'd say the Sresh is more capable and more a trail duro than the Ampflo and the Ebike Rise, but not as trail duro as the Levo Gen 4. It jumps pretty good. I'd say, you know, with the Coil, it does make it want to stick to the ground a bit more, but you need to preload the suspension a bit more. And would I be taking to a bike park? I'd say yeah, like if you want to go for a sneaky, you know, week trip to the bike park in summer, why not? I wouldn't be, you know, this would not be my weapon of choice to take to a bike park. And 29er versus Mullet. Look, if you're a fan of the channel, you'd know I only pretty much ride Mullets. I think Mullets and e-bikes just make a lot more sense. Fucking blown out here. And, you know, I see it like this. If you are a newer rider and you want, you know, a more stable platform, better rollover, probably better for climbing as well, more stable, you know, you have that option in the Propain bike builder set up as 29er. But I think for a rider that wants to play a bit more trail bike, you know, make it more agile, the Mullet's the way to go. And you will see, like, you can set this up in the bike builder as with 38s or 36s. I opted for the 36 because this bike, you know, comes in pretty light at like 21 kilos. I didn't think I really wanted to make it into like a mini enduro bike. And also worth noting, riders, Propain don't recommend you run this at a 170 fork. So, you know, I know you're probably thinking, I'll get 38s, 170, slacken it out half a degree or a degree, but I don't think it's an option. You know, I think probably for the style of riding I do, especially in these blown out trails right now, the Sresh would benefit from half a degree or a degree slacker head tube angle for my style of riding. So now we're heading back up the mountain. Let's talk about how the Sresh climbs and the EP801 motor. Well, I think the geometry is really good on the Sresh for climbing, puts you in a good position. Also, longish chain stay, got a coil in the back, gives us really good climbing traction. I'm going to say when it gets steep and nasty, it's not the best climber, and that's down to the EP801. It's not the most powerful motor on the market, but it still gets the job done. And that's a great segue to go on to the Shimano EP801. So over the last couple of years, you know, Shimano haven't got the best rap with their motor. And it's understandable, it is not the best motor on the market. You know, the market has moved. There's a lot more powerful systems, you know, better integration. But I'm gonna say it's not a bad motor. Like, there's a lot of good things going for it. I really love the natural pedal stroke of the motor. And I also really love how they have set up the fine tune, which you can set it up from 0 to 10, and it actually dynamically ramps up, a lot like the new Specialized Microtune dynamic mode. And for me, that's just a great way to get a workout out in the trails. I also love that when you're riding above the limiter or when the motor's off, there's next to no drag on the system. So that's a great benefit. I'm not going to go into the whole motor and system because riders, I have done a deep dive review on the EP801 like about a year ago, link in the show notes. And something I was thinking about, you know, with all these new powerful motors, with the Bosch, with the DJI and the new Specialized, can you ride comfortably with those motors with the EP801? I'm going to say yes and no. It's going to be a compromise. So the new motors have like 15, 20, 30% more power. So if you're going out with a riding group and they do have the new more powerful motors, you're going to have to ride in the highest assistant mode and they're going to have to ride in trail or the mid assistant mode. But it is doable. Now let's talk range. Over the last 4 months, I've been riding the Sresh a lot, and I'd say the most vertical meters climbed I managed to get was around 1,300 meters of vert. And I was pretty much empty. I had like 2% battery left. So that's the limit for me. And riders, I'm not the fittest rider out there. I'd say I'm the average rider. So if you're super fit, you're obviously going to get more. And if you're not as fit, you're going to get less. Now let's do a noise test. So at the moment, the motor is off. So now we go into assistant 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. For me, it's definitely not the quietest motor on the market, but at the same time, it doesn't really annoy me. Riders, let me know what you think in the comments. And then what about the rattle or the sound or the motor going downhill? Now, normally the EP801 has a prominent rattle, but in this frame construction with the removable battery, I can't hear the rattle that much. I can hear it a little bit, but it's definitely not as prominent as something like the Ebike rides that I tested a few months ago. But let me do a sound test, POV style, with the noise cancelling software turned off, and you riders let me know. Okay, riders, on to sizing. So I'm 183 centimeters. I went for the large Sresh. Initially, I thought it was a little bit too big. Changed the stem from a 50 to a 30. Also put some riser bars on it. I would not be sizing up or down. Definitely the large is right for me. And riders, if you're right in the middle of a size, I would possibly, if you're an experienced rider, size down. And if you're not that experienced, size up. And also, if you're not that experienced and you want a really stable bike, get the 29 on the back. And then on to models. So we've got 3 models available on the Propain website, starting from 5,399 euros. If it was me, I would definitely be doing the build my own bike on the Propain website. One, riders, just go have a look at it. It's a lot of fun. I would definitely build out the best suspension, the best brakes you can afford, and then maybe running gear and cockpit, you know, maybe spend a little less on that because you can upgrade that later. Okay, now on to not all gravy, the things I haven't liked about the Propain Sresh, or I'd like to see improved. First off, the remote from Shimano is terrible. Worst remote I've ever used. That's not Propain's fault, but yeah, not a great remote. I found the seat quite uncomfortable, but you know, I changed the seat out to a Specialized seat, so no problem there. I would like to see the bike be a little bit slacker, maybe 64.5 or 64 degree for my style of riding. But you know, that would definitely change how the bike is really nimble and nippy. I'd like to see maybe like adjustable headset, making it, you know, 64, 65, that would be cool. The motor protector, I actually broke the motor protector on the second ride out. I would recommend anyone getting this bike to maybe buy 1 or 2 motor protectors. But you know, that's not uncommon for me. I do break quite a few motor covers. This trail is so blown out. I think probably the biggest thing for me on this bike, and it's not really Propain's fault or problem, well, it kind of is their problem because they don't have it. I'd love to see a range extender on this bike because, you know, 626 is great and it does make you have a lightish bike, and it does seem where the trend is going, you know, with a lot of the bikes now coming with a 600 watt hour battery. I would love to see a range extender on this bike. But unfortunately Shimano don't offer it yet. So yeah, there we go. And who should be looking at the Propain Sresh? Well, I think anyone that's looking for an absolutely beautiful bike, it's got to be like the best looking bike of the year for me. It's such a beautiful bike. Propain, their industrial engineers or designers do such a good job. And I think someone that's looking at the EP801 Ride or maybe the Montera SL should be looking at this. And also I just love how Propain allow you to customize your bike. It's got to be, you know, for me who likes changing almost everything, that's a massive plus for this bike. And riders, we've come to the end, the conclusion of the Propain Sresh. Well, I've had an absolutely fantastic time. It's a beast of a bike, really enjoyed it. You know, a massive shout out for Propain for sending this out. And riders, if you've got any questions about the Propain Sresh, let me know in the comments. I'd definitely help you out. And riders, like always, stay safe out there and we're gonna see you soon.